Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this tutorial series, we are designing this product launch website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now in this video, we will start writing the code for our website. Now in this video, we will design the navbar. So let's get started. Right here I have created this folder called product launch and I just opened it with VS Code. Now let's create the necessary file. So let's create a new file called index.html. Let's create another file called style.css. And let's create one more file called main.js. And let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code, you can just type exclamation and press tab and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. And here in the title, let's go ahead and type Nova task, AI powered productivity. And the next thing we need to do is we need to get the link of the font. So let's go to Google Fonts. So you can just go to this website called fonts.google.com and let's search for the font that we need. So we are using a font called Poppins inside our website. So let's search for Poppins. Now here let's go ahead and select this font and let's click on Get Font and let's click on Get Embed Code. Now here let's go ahead and click on Change Styles and let's select the ones that we need. So we need to have 300, the light version. We need to have 400 regular. Then let's select medium and also semi-bold and bold. Now let's go ahead and copy this code. So let's click on copy code. Let's go back to our HTML file and let's paste it over here. Right now let's go ahead and get the link of Font Awesome because we're going to use some icons from Font Awesome. So you can just search for Font Awesome Syrian and you'll find this link of Syrian.js. So let's open this and let's go ahead and copy this all.min.css from here. So let's click on this copy link tag. Let's go back and paste it over here. Right, that's it with our fonts and icons. Now let's go ahead and start with the markup of our website. So the first thing we will do is we'll create a division of the class of page wrapper. And in that we will have the main nav. So this is the main nav. So let's create a nav element and let's give it a class of main nav. And in that we will have a container. So for the container we will have a max width in our CSS. Now here we'll also give it a class of nav container so that if you want to style it differently we can do that. And let's add an h1 over here and let's tap Nova task. And let's also give it a class of logo. And now let's go ahead and create a button. So the button is this button right here for the dark mode. So in the button, we need to add two icons. So first of all, let's give it an ID. So let's tap theme toggle for the ID. And let's give it a class of theme toggle button. Right now, let's write the code for the icon. So you can just type I. So the I tag is used for icons in Font Awesome. And you can just add the class. So for the sun icon, we have a class called FAS, FA-sun. And let's close this. So this will give us the sun icon. I'll just open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called Live Server installed in VS Code. So once you have this installed, you can just go ahead and right click over here in the HTML and click on Open with Live Server. And here we can see we have the icon being displayed. Alright, now let's add another icon. So for this icon, let's give it a class of FAS, FA-moon. So this will give us this moon icon. So that's basically it with the navbar. Right now let's add the CSS. So let's go to our style.css file and let's start adding the CSS. First of all, let's add some global styles. So let's select everything. And let's tap margin 0, padding 0 and box sizing border box so that we have the correct height and width for all the elements. Right now let's target the body and let's set the font family to the font that we selected. So here let's go ahead and type Poppins and sans serif. And let's set the line height of everything to 1.7. And now let's add a background color. So for the background color, we will use a CSS variable. So let's create a variable over here. Let's type :root. And this will be accessible throughout our website. So here let's create a variable called bg color light. And let's set the value to white. Now since we have this dark theme also, we need to use one more variable for bg color dark, but we'll do that later. Right now, let's go ahead and use this color right here. So let's type var bg color light, and for all the text color, let's type var, and let's create a variable called text color light. So let's type text color light, and for text color light, let's give it a value of 2D3748, and let's use that over here, text color light. Now when we switch to the dark theme, we need to also have this smooth transition. So for that, let's add a transition to the background. So let's type transition background color, and for the transition speed, let's create a variable. So let's name it transition speed, and let's set the value to 0.3 seconds, and let's use that over here. I'll just type var transition speed, and for the easing, let's type ease, and let's add the transition for the color as well. So this is the color of the text, so let's type var transition speed ease, and now let's set the font weight to 400, which is a regular font weight. Right now, let's go ahead and target the container. So we have this container division over here, and in that we have all the content. So let's type dot container, and for the container we will have a max width, and we'll create a variable for this as well. So here let's create a variable called container width, and we'll set the value to 1140 pixels, and let's use that over here, var container width, and let's bring everything to the center. So let's type margin 0 auto, and let's set the padding to 0 top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right. We don't have the container styles being added, so let's go to our HTML file, and here we haven't linked our CSS file, so let's type link, and here in the href let's type style.css. Right now we can see that the styles are being added. Right now let's style this nav element called main nav. So here I'll just type main nav. Now we want it to be fixed in one place even if we scroll down, and for that let's set the position to fixed, and let's set the top position to 0, and let's add a z index of 1000 so that it's above all the other elements. Let's also set the width to 100%. Let's add some padding. Let's type padding of 1.5 rem 0, and let's add a background color. So let's type background, and let's set it to RGBA 255 255 255, and for the opacity let's type 0.3, and for the glass effect let's also add backdrop filter, and let's set it to blur 12 pixels, and for some other browsers also let's type WebKit backdrop filter, and let's set it to blur 12 pixels as well, and let's type box shadow, and let's set it to none, because after we scroll down we will have the box shadow over here. So initially we don't want to have the box shadow, and after that let's go ahead and add a transition, because when we scroll down we need to have the smooth transition from going from this state to the state with the smaller height. So let's add a transition for that as well. Let's type transition padding, and let's set it to var transition speed, and for the easing let's type ease in out, and for the background color let's type var transition speed ease in out, and for the box shadow let's go ahead and type var transition speed ease in out. Right now let's go ahead and style this nav container, and in the nav container we have this h1 and this button. Let's type nav container, and we need to have these elements on the left and the extreme right sides. So for that let's type display of flex, justify content space between, and now we can see that these elements are to the extreme left and right sides. Let's also align items to the center. Right now let's target the logo. So here inside the main nav we have this h1 with a class of logo, so let's target this. I'll just type main nav logo, and for the logo let's set the font size to 1.75 rem, and let's set the color to a variable. So let's create the variable over here, and let's give it a name of logo color. Now we need to have two different colors for the logo. So for the light version we need to have a different color for the logo, and for the dark version we need to have a different color. So for that let's go ahead and create two variables over here. let's create one with a name of logo color light. And for this light logo color, we need to have the same color as the primary color. So this is basically the primary color that we have. So let's go ahead and create a variable for the primary color first. So here let's type primary color light, and let's set the value to 6A11CB. And here for the logo color light, let's type var primary color light. So this will use the same color that we have over here. And for the logo color dark, we need to have a different color. So I'll just add a comment. I'll just type dark theme, and here let's type light theme. Let's type default. So this will be the default theme. So in the dark theme, let's go ahead and set the logo color dark, and let's set the value to another primary color that we use for the dark theme. So here let's type -- primary color dark, and for the dark primary color, let's set the value to 9F7AEA, and let's use this same color for the logo color dark. So let's type var primary color dark, and we need to have these two colors for the dark version as well. So let's create that over here. So let's type --bg color dark, and for bg color dark, let's type 1A202C, and let's type text color dark. Now here we already have text color light. So here we are creating for the dark theme. So let's set the value to E2E8F0. But now what we will do is we'll create one more selector over here, and here let's create a variable called logo color, and here we'll just simply go ahead and type var logo color light. Now if you have the dark theme, then we will add a class called dark mode to the body. So what we'll do is here we'll just type body.dark mode. So if you have the dark mode class added to the body, we'll just go ahead and copy this and paste it over here. And here let's type logo color dark. And here we need to do the same for the text color and the background color as well. So let's type --bg color, and let's set it to var bg color light over here. And for the text color, let's type text color. Let's type var text color light, and here in the dark mode, let's go ahead and type bg color, and let's type var bg color dark. And for the text color, let's type text color. Let's type var text color dark. So here what we're basically doing is that we are creating these variables for using in our code, and based on whether we have the dark or the light theme, we are going to use the correct color from these colors over here. So now we can simply go ahead and use these colors: logo color, bg color, text color, and it will change based on the theme that we have active. Now there are two vars displayed over here. Let's remove these. Right now let's set the color of this logo to var logo color. Right now if you go back to our website, here we can see that we have the correct color for the logo. Now while we are here, let's also add the primary color. So here let's type --primary color, and here let's type var primary color light, and we need to remove the second var from here. Right now here let's copy this. Let's paste it over here for the light theme. So here we need to change this to dark, and here we have light. So now when we use primary color, it will select primary color light or dark based on the theme. Alright, let's scroll down, and here for the logo, let's set margin bottom to 0. Let's set the font weight to 700, and we'll also add a transition so that when we scroll down, we have the correct smooth animation. So let's have font size, and let's set the speed to var transition speed. And for the easing, let's type ease in out. Right now we need to style these two buttons that we have over here. So let's type, we have this class over here called theme toggle button. So let's type dot theme toggle button. Let's add a background of transparent. Let's set the border to 1 pixel solid, and for the color, let's type var input border. And now let's create this color. So let's go to our variables, and here we need to create the variable for the light and the dark. So let's type input border light, and let's set the value to E2E8F0, and let's create one more variable for the dark color. So let's type input border dark, and let's set the value to 4a5568, and let's create this variable over here for using it in our code. So let's type input border, and let's set it to var input border light, and here in the dark mode let's type input border var input border dark. So now we can use this input border. So here we have used var input border for the color. Right now let's go ahead and set the color to var text color. Let's set the padding to 0.5 rem, 0.75 rem, and let's set the border radius, and we'll create a variable for this as well. So we'll create a variable called border radius. So let's scroll up, and here let's add a comment called universal variables, and here let's type border radius, and let's set the value to 0.5 rem. Right now let's set the cursor to pointer. So when we hover over this, we have this cursor, and let's set the font size, and let's set it to 1 rem. Let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and justify content to the center. And now we can see that it is in the center. Let's also add a transition so that we have this smooth transition when we go from the dark to the light modes. So let's type transition, and let's set the values to background color var transition speed ease, and for the color of the text let's type var transition speed ease, and for the border color let's type var transition speed ease. Right now we need to display just one of these icons at a time. So by default we need to just display the FA Sun icon. So let's type theme toggle button, and we have this class of FA Sun. So let's type .fa sun, and let's set the display to inline block, and let's target the other icon. So let's type theme toggle button, and it is called FA moon. Let's set the display to none, and now we can see that we have just one icon. And now when we hover over this, we need to have a slight hover effect. So let's type theme toggle button hover, and let's type border color, and let's set it to var text color. And now if we go back, here we can see that we have this hover effect. So with that we have styled our navbar, and in the next video we will continue styling the other elements of our website. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.